Hey there. Welcome to this week's edition of Williamson Watchers, where we are watching out for things in Williamson County that can affect you. I'm Leigh Ann Cates, and I'm joined by my fellow board members, Peg Rosidi and Elliott Franklin. Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hi.
We're glad to be back with you this week. We are all excited. We're coming off of a really highly successful mix and mingle that we had, and some of what was discussed last night is part of our topic for today. But before we go there, Peg, give us a rundown of what all took place last night.
So the mix and mingle was mixed up and mingling. I have to say, we had so many people, so many new people, because of what we were going to be discussing, the hot topics that's going on in Williamson County right now. The two hot topics are taxes and developments. So that's what we wanted to showcase and by popular demand. So we had a lot of people coming in from all kinds of grassroots groups throughout the county that were invited specifically to come to this event, see what we're about, and they came out in droves. So I am super excited that we had so many new faces, and I thank you all for coming. We even had the step and repeat. We had amazing photos. We just had a great time, and we were back at the Marriott, and that was a tremendous night. And Elliott, I'm sure that you were impressed with first special guest. I didn't even know. Did you guys know? I did not know.
I didn't know he was coming. That was a nice surprise.
I wish I had the camera exactly right, but
Yeah, no, we had Congressman Andy Ogles come in and give us an update fresh, literally off his flight, coming back from helping pass the big, beautiful bill in Congress to try to get down our debt. And what's so interesting is, obviously he spent quite some time, talking about all that's going on there and all the work he's done and took questions from the audience, which was great. But it's very interesting because a lot of the things we're going to talk about and the reason that we exist is to do the same thing that he and the conservatives are doing in Washington, in Williamson County, right? We're trying to look at, and that's what we're going to be talking about, how we can cut some of the waste from our budgets here, and so that we can hopefully control the spending and control taxes here in Williamson County. But, great group last night. A lot of new faces that I've never seen before. And that's what we pledged to do. We said we want to grow the party. We want to expand the party. We want to reach into folks that maybe never wanted to get involved in politics before, didn't know what it was. And so we've got these wide range of issues like growth and development and clean drinking water that really impact all of us. And so, again, phenomenal event. Thanks to all those that attended and all those that planned it.
Yeah, we even had a special appearance by Scott Smith of the Tennessee GOP. He came all the way from Powell, Tennessee, over in East Tennessee. And then Lawrence Sutton, who's the chair of the Lawrence County GOP, was there with us last night. So the grassroots are all coming together and doing some really great things. So it's exciting to be a part of all of this.
It is.
So I think today our subject is going to be property taxes. Everybody loves property taxes, right? And Mary Smith, who's one of our fine commissioners, came to speak to us tonight and shared all kinds of numbers. And I think there's a lot of maybe some confusion over some of what those numbers mean. And so who wants to take this subject first?
So I'll start off with my limited understanding and kind of what Mary shared. But I also want to say, again, thanks. Even our property assessor, who you write the check out to.
That's
he was
right.
there last night.
He was there.
So the people talk about transparency. Folks were there. We had multiple commissioners there wanting to answer your questions as well. We also had some candidates speak that are wanting to be, fill the vacancy that we've got over in District 3 from the county commission. So again, thanks to the grassroots. But on taxes, look, in Williamson County, or in Tennessee, but in Williamson County, homes are reassessed every 4 years for your property value according to market trends. And then there's the certified tax rate. And that's the rate that's required if you're going to generate the same revenue. The county is going to generate the same revenue this year as last year. And that was set at $1.24, $1.24. However, there's a proposed tax rate in Williamson County of $1.34, and that would raise additional revenue and could lead to even higher tax bills. So we all got those little postcards in the mail. You should have gotten all the little small, it may have gotten lost, it may have gotten mixed in with the flyer, but it was a very, very small, thin postcard last week or maybe the prior that has your new property value on it for your home. If your property value increased by 52% or more, then even under the certified rate, even if the county commission votes to keep it exactly the same, you're going to see a higher property tax bill. And of course, if it goes to the $1.34, it's going to be even higher. And remember, what you got to remember is this is just the county rate. Each of us has probably, unless you're in an unincorporated area, lives in a city where you're going to have city taxes on top of that.
Mary mentioned that there was actually one person in the room whose taxes were going to go down. So this isn't necessarily an across the board across the board increase for everybody just because they live in Williamson County. That 52% increase in value is the main line of demarcation, so to speak, of where things will change. So my next question really is, why are we needing to increase the property taxes in the first place? Who wants to take that one?
Well, I think the major budget factor are the schools. That is the number one draw of our tax dollars are the schools. And the schools budget is enormous. And there is some issue about how the schools are funded. Primarily in Williamson County, the schools are funded by the county as opposed to getting a lot from the state because we are wealthier or have higher home values here. So there is a bit of a sticking point here. Why aren't we getting the same percentage as other communities? Because the state does not give it to us. So now we're feeling the pinch as a trickle down process of why we aren't being funded as robustly as other communities. And of course, we want the best schools possible. And that's why people come here, because we have tremendous schools and we all love it. But it comes at a price, and the schools are very expensive. And this past year, we are trying to raise the salaries of the teachers because they are well below what other communities are paying them. So we are in a double bind here. We want to have great schools and good teachers, but then we're not being funded from the state.
So yeah, I'll just add into that. You're exactly right, Peg. And so the funding formula that the state uses to reimburse each county for the students in their schools, it's not done fairly. It's not done uniformly. So Williamson County suffers. And thanks to our Representative Gino Bolso and some of our county commissioners and school board members, they did put forward a lawsuit in the last couple of weeks to try to fix that. But we all know that legislation or that lawsuit will probably take some time. But so schools, you're right. Schools are the number one expenditure that we've got as a county. But I will say that one of the reasons that they're proposing it may go up is because of the debt service that we have. We have so much debt in Williamson County that we pay over $42 million a year just in interest on the debts that we owe. And if you consider the principal plus interest, we're paying around $91 million a year just on our loans that we have. And so why do we have that much debt? Why have we taken out that much debt? And there's some reckless spending, some spending that shouldn't have been done on things, some wasteful spending. And hopefully, a lot of the county commissioners have said they're really going to look at that hard to see if there's areas that they can cut so that they don't have to raise the taxes.
Just to piggyback on that, and I was thinking about how the cities don't have to pay for schools. So the spending by the cities and the taxes that they generate just go for city services, while the county is really stuck with the massive influx of all of that development. The city is really coming in and taking and annexing land at the county. And so it's just continuing. And then the schools need to be built. And then there's more teachers that need to be hired. So it's a whole big system of the interaction between the city, the county, the schools, and influx and development. So that's like the wheel that keeps going. And then what happens? We have the debt. Now, Leigh Ann, do you know anything about the jail that's being proposed and I think has been approved? And that is a massive amount of money.
I don't have the numbers in front of me for the exact dollars and population, but I can give you a general overview that the jail that is being proposed, or it may very well have been approved already, is set to hold more people in it than Williamson County has criminals to put there. We would actually, because we would not be able to fill the jail with inmates from Williamson County, we actually are going to be housing inmates from other counties. Well, when you house an inmate from another county, you take on their health care, which means we will then be providing health care to inmates from other counties that don't belong to us. Then you add on top of that the new Juvenile Justice Center. I'm doing this based on what I remember reading just a couple of days ago. And so again, there would be additional, apparently mental health beds are in great need. And so we would have lots of bills.
So it's going to be the Juvenile Justice Center and mental health facilities and also the adult jail, all Correct. Put on a area that is on a seismically active, I think, next to the quarry. So it all is very
Right.
frustrating. And, they say, well, we do need another facility, but it's going to be ballooning out of hand, I fear, in terms of costs. I would assume that it just keeps going from there with
That's
inflation and
right.
everything. So it's a very big cost.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and again, we talk about, we're going to say it every time, or at least I am. All politics is local. This is why we need folks that are fiscally conservative to run for office. Yes, this was, this can't be undone now. This project, it was already approved late last year for, like you said, it started at around, the first passage was 280 million. And yes, we absolutely needed a new space for the juvenile justice. We absolutely needed a new space for our sheriff's department and such. They're facility was not safe to be in, but we didn't need to build it so big to house all the inmates for all of Tennessee. We're trying to solve all the world's problems with our taxpayer dollars, and for what reason? And so we've got to have fiscally conservative folks on the county commission that can question these things and vote them down so that we can keep our taxes low. We need to provide good salaries for our teachers. We need to have great salaries for our sheriff's departments and our public safety officials, but we don't need to build. I mean, the first rendition that they had, no joke, had a coffee bar in it for the criminals. Why do they need a fancy Starbucks coffee bar inside the jail? I mean, these things are ridiculous. Now, thanks to Sheriff Hughes coming in, and he quickly saw those things and he crossed those off. But still, we've got to look at every project. And you talk about the schools. We've got, the district office. Do we have too many people at the district office? A survey needs to be done. Do we not? But we need to take advantage of those shared services, and we should be able to cut costs in some of those areas and be creative. And that's where we need folks that have time to dig into the numbers and can help us here.
Well, and like you said, everything really comes back to local, but President Trump has put out such a good example for us of how to cut, where to cut, when to cut, that we could use his lead at the local level and know where's the waste, where do we need to look for the waste rather than going on a witch hunt. Where's that waste in the most obvious places?
And you're right. And it's going to have an impact, especially when we're so tight knit in a community. What I mean by that is, yes, somebody's relative, somebody's friend, somebody's, may get laid off or may get reassigned to a different position, but that's happening at the national level too. And it's the right thing to do. And it's hard. I've been laid off a couple of times from different jobs. I get it. But at the same time, it's what's best for the community and what's best to be fiscally conservative with our tax dollars. So great point.
So this segues into the whole development piece, and that development never pays for itself. So if you're bringing so many new people into a space so quickly that the community cannot adjust and grow the infrastructure, grow all of those services, you're going to have everything happens at once, and so much money is going to be then debt service, all of those improvements. And I think that everybody is sort of wondering where is this going to settle in? Is it just going to be exponential growth, or is it somehow going to stop or ease? How can we all be together in this space when there's so much infrastructure that is needed?
Just last night, we had Williamson County citizens from the east side of I-65 that all have farms and are surrounded by farms. And they're very, very concerned that these developers are going to come in and not only offer crazy money that nobody in their right mind would turn down, especially if you're struggling for money because you are a farmer or you have land, and it's hard to turn down that kind of money. I'm not going to lie.
How can you?
But we also have some leadership that just rubber stamps rather than really looking it over and seeing really what's, like you said, Peg, development rarely pays for itself. So who's paying for it? And if there's a way to negotiate that with the developers and say, hey, listen, you got to bring more to the table to make it right for us, not right for you.
And there's two things I'll add on that. I hear this frequently between the city council, BOMA, and the county commissioners. Well, if we push back on these developers, they're just going to raise the price of the homes, and then no one can afford the homes. Well, again, you're going to pay for it. It's pay me now or pay me later. You're going to either pay for it in the home price or you're going to pay for it in taxes. It needs to be paid for up front. And we continue to bring businesses here, which is great for jobs. But at the same time, if the city or the county gives them 50-year tax abatements, which they continue to do, and then those businesses aren't paying their taxes, they say, well, if we've got all these businesses coming here, why do our taxes continue to grow up? Because those businesses aren't paying property tax. Yes, they're paying taxes on their income and things like that, that, but not property taxes. So those are the things we've got to get people dialed into. Yes, it takes time. Yes, we all mostly have full-time jobs, but those are the things we've got to have folks, grassroots folks, fiscally conservative folks that come up beside, alongside us, help us with this, run for office, help speak at these meetings, and really help so that we can control this debt, or out of control debt.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, they say you eat an elephant one bite at a time. So we took a little nibble today on property taxes and debt servicing and all that kind of stuff. But you, the grassroots, you, the people watching, we would love to hear from you. Your commissioners want to hear from you. They want to know what's important to you. And so in the show notes, we'll put some email addresses where you can reach out to your commissioners. You can reach out to your local authorities or your local elected officials to let them know how you feel about things and voice your concerns. Showing up at meetings is always a good place to be.
And the next commission meeting was it June the 2nd?
Second, I believe. I think it is.
Or is that the 3rd?
Maybe the 3rd, but yeah, the first Tuesday.
The first Tuesday of June is, I think it's going to be a very spirited meeting because there'll be public comments, and that will be the tax comments. Okay. Should we finish up about last night and the last speaker that we had as our guest for the Mix and Mingle? We had the Harpeth Conservancy come and speak to us about the water issue, which then impacts development and impacts schools and Texas and everything else. It's a trickle down thing. And yes. I think she did a fabulous job just presenting what's at stake and how the river impacts everything. And right now, there are so many communities struggling with growth, and Murray County, they're struggling with actually having water.
Literally having water.
Like having water. And so they work with the Harpeth River and the Duck River. And those are treasures that we all have here. So I thought it was great. And it brought out a lot of people who are really struggling with the developments in their communities, because they're proposing such massive developments and taking away from the unincorporated. And so that is an issue. And I thought everybody had an informative talk with her, and she did a great job.
The Harpeth Conservancy is a nonpartisan group, but they're impactful with the service that they offer, the studies that they do, and informing us about the things with the river and the cleanup efforts that they have and such. And those directly affect us as a county. So, for folks that might say, wait a minute, they weren't a Republican organization. Doesn't matter. They're a nonpartisan group supported by many of our fellow Republicans in the party, and we were glad to host them last night. They were just pleasant as they could be, and we look forward to hearing from others about how they felt about last evening. So, well, with that, we will bid you adieu. Our next Mix and Mingle is scheduled for June the 26th. We will be back at the Cool Springs Marriott, and we will be hearing from a representative from the Tennessee Firearms Association. So get all your fellow shooting buddies, get them to join us next month at our next Mix and Mingle. And until then, these are the Williamson Watchers watching out for you.